given those two matchups, the biggest reason that I say it's more about Dak and McCarthy is that, remember this was last week when Dallas lost the Arizona Cardinals and people freaking out, And I said my biggest criticism of Dallas and of Dak, not necessarily Dak Prescott, but of Mike McCarthy, because he calls plays now, and so there's an extended level of scrutiny of him, is that against the Cardinals, when Dallas is trailing throughout, he takes virtually no shot or draws up no place to take shots down the field. I mean, I remember that late in that game, they're down, was it 12? And they're running the ball in the red zone, like kind of similar to the way Colorado, not quite as bad, but kind of the way Colorado was at the end of the game against USC. You're like, Coach, what are you doing? Like, you need big plays. You need chunk plays. You need to get down the field. Your quarterback, statistically, since he walked into the league, is one of the most efficient quarterbacks in football when throwing down the field. When it's 20 yards or more, Dallas only took 3 of those shots in that game against the Cardinals. In this matchup, it's going to be the focal point of San Francisco's offense is going to be running the football, because Dallas has been an opportunistic defense. They've taken the ball away from Daniel Jones, from Zach Wilson. They didn't from Joshua Dobbs, and they did 3 times against Mac Jones. Brock Purdy is better than all of those quarterbacks. However, they did hold him to 19 last year, and not only that, San Francisco's run game is awesome. Did you see what Christian McCaffrey did last week? You got people out here talking about, is Christian McCaffrey the MVP of the league? Who'd ever thought we'd be saying that about a running back? But it's because of what he can do, not just in the running game, but in the passing game. He had 4 touchdowns last week, and Dallas's defense, as great as it is, as great as Micah and Stephon Gilmore, Leighton Vander Esch, all those guys are, the weakness of their defense, they cannot stop the run. Remember, the Cardinals went for 200 rushing yards against them. Now, if Dallas builds a lead early, if they're up 10-0, then the defensive line could pin their ears back and come after Brock Purdy. I don't anticipate that happening. Whether or not I pick Dallas or not to win the game is beside the point. I don't think they're going to jump out to a 10-0 lead. I don't. If they do, they're in great shape, because then they could just come after the quarterback. But San Francisco's in a spot where it could be a Christian McCaffrey game throughout. They got an elite offensive line, and of course, ask Brock Purdy to be in a more reduced role because of how great the running game is, and because Dallas simply cannot stop it. They can't. That's what could get them beat in the playoffs later on. For Dallas, it's an entirely different story. Dallas can run the ball as well. They do have Tony Pollard. They do have Rico Dowdle. They have a solid running game in Dallas, and I think their offensive line it's improved drastically from last year pass protection, but it's much better in the running game. This has to be a game, if the Cowboys are to win, where Mike McCarthy, it's the opposite of the Cardinals game, where I think there are going to be moments in which maybe let's throw out a score. Again, I think it's going to be low scoring. Strapped a hat there. I think it's going to be low scoring. Let's say it's at one point 13-7 Niners. Say it's 13-7 Niners with 5 minutes left in the third quarter, and Dallas is in a position where they've got the ball and they're not generating anything offensively. Maybe there's a turnover in there, but their defense is playing well. They're keeping them in the game. The morale is still high on that sideline. That's got to be a spot where Mike McCarthy, I know he loves the running game. I know he wants Dak to work out of the play action. But where he's got to say, Dak, you got to go win the game for us, buddy. We are going to draw up plays for you to take shots down the field. We're going to get situations where receivers separate. Again, we talk about the weakness for the Cowboys is their run defense. You could argue if there is a weakness in San Francisco, it's their pass defense. Because as good as we talk about, Dallas has played some average to bad quarterbacks this year. I mean, the Niners, aside from Stafford, haven't played world beaters. They played my man Kenny Pickett. They played again Matt Stafford, who's still very good. In week 3, they played Daniel Jones. And then last week, they played, again, my man Joshua Dobbs. But Josh Dobbs, nobody's ever going to mistake him for an elite quarterback. Dak Prescott is, again, the best quarterback that the Niners have faced. And so that's got to be a game which the Cowboys' running game is not going to win it. It's not. They cannot win it if it's a run-first type of situation, unless their defense gets like 4 takeaways, which I don't see happening. This has got to be a game where it's a repeat of last year, in which Dak couldn't win the game with his arm because he did miss some open throws and he did turn the football over at key inopportune times. If Dak throws a pick, he throws a pick. Again, it's going to be low scoring. I'm not going to be, if Dak throws a pick and it's a bad read, oh my God, he's awful. That's not, who cares about that? It's about whether or not he can make the throws when you really need it. If it's 13, let's throw out a score here. Let's say it's 20-12 20-12 San Francisco, 20-13 with 5 minutes left in the game, and Dallas has got the ball at their own 25. You know what? Let's minimize that down to 4 minutes. Where the running game, there's not enough time for you to run your way down there, which I don't think you can anyway because of how great the Niners front is. Dak has to win the game with his arm, and McCarthy has to allow him to win the game with his arm. He's got to draw up plays for Dak to win the game with his arm because Dallas cannot win with their running game against that Niners front. They can't. It's going to be a very fascinating matchup because Dak made a couple nice throws in that first playoff game, but not enough. And last year, I can't really think of a signature as the biggest Dak fan on planet Earth. I can't think of that one throw where I'm like, dang, that was a good throw by Dak, or that was a big play by Dak. Cowboys defense was good enough for them to win. They didn't take the ball away, but they held them to 19 points. Like, you'll take that against that Niners offense. You'll take that. It's got to be a Dak Prescott game. It's got to be a Mike McCarthy game. Very, very interesting matchup. Again, if I'm going to guarantee anything, I'll predict the game on Friday. If I'm going to guarantee anything, it will be low scoring again. Vegas has the over-under at 45. San Francisco's favored -4, so do the math. That's about 24-20 Niners, something in that ballpark. But it's going to have to be a Dak Prescott game. It is. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.